Greetings, grandfather. Now it's time for a little update. And when I say time, I mean time. Some of you have noticed a phenomenon. I want to talk about that a little bit. For some of you, this has been going on kind of off and on unexpectedly over the past year or so. But it's beginning to pick up the pace a bit, and more of you are beginning to have brief moments of the experience. And because I don't want it to frighten you, I want to give you some details. You are going through a change as a planet. You understand? So everybody on it is affected. The change is intended to do only good. But of course, because change can be unnerving at times, even when it is going towards something good, people are nervous. They are edgy. Of course, this is aggravated by the times and conditions. But underlying it, there's this other thing. You have all, with very few exceptions, been born into a sense of fixed time. You look at your watch, an hour goes by. You look outside, it's nighttime, it's daytime. You get it, all right? But time, as you know it, as you experience it, is not only seemingly speeding up because you have so much more to do, but it is also actually transforming. In time, the way you actually live it, as a immortal spirit, though you may reincarnate from this to that life, still, as your immortal personality or spirit, or your immortal soul, as some say, and that's all right, you live in a constant. It is not an experience where there is the need for time. Therefore, when you come to this planet, going through all that's happening here, and the whole experience of the explorer race, which I've referred to before, to say nothing of the entire book series, then you have to adapt. And the adaptation process isn't easy. And if you were coming in ways other than being born physically as a baby, totally in need of those around them, the adaptation process may be possible to delay, to avoid, you understand, to put off. But when you are a baby, you need total care all the time for everything, so you must be completely receptive. You know this. And so you are now experiencing something that amounts to that experience you had as a baby. You are experiencing moments of total receptivity. This does not simply mean that someone gets you a cup of coffee or hands you the potato chips or rice cakes or what have you. No, that's not about what I'm talking about. It's that usually when there is no demand on you, you're not driving a car, you're not operating machinery, all right? You're not doing anything that could be hazardous, but you have a moment. You will notice something, and many of you have begun to notice this, and you're a bit concerned. With some of you will come a certain aspect that is confusing and sometimes mysterious, and that is that some of you, not all, will have this experience when you are noticing an actual time on the clock. You might even wake up in the middle of the night and glanced at the clock, thinking perhaps the alarm went off, it's time to get up, and it will be the same time, the same numbers you see regularly. That's for a small percentage of you, but that's been happening for a long time, if you don't mind my use of the word time here. Still, the other thing that is becoming more pervasive, but is closely related to seeing a mysterious sight, even though it's within the context of your life. All right? As some of you might, for instance, notice suddenly that your cat is in an unusual position, or your dog is staring at you for a moment. Why are they doing that? And then at the same moment, you will notice, if a clock happens to be nearby, you will notice that though the sounds seem to be around you that are normally there, that there may be something missing. And what is missing is linear time. Linear time is that which happens moment to moment. It's 11:30, it's 11:35, it's 11:40, like that. But there is another time. It is vertical time. Certain aspects of time on the vertical plane might be beneficial ones, okay? That you will know what you need to know when you need to know it. But if you don't need to know that, if you don't need that information at that point in your experience, it's not there. So it doesn't clutter up your conscious mind, but should you need to know that at another time, there it is. That's one of the benefits. Now, the mysterious aspect, though, for most of you, is that you will definitely have a sense that a considerable amount of time has elapsed, and considerable can be 2 minutes for some of you, 3 minutes for some of you, up to 10 or 12, even 14 minutes for others. And you can tell that that time has elapsed. You've had the experience. You've been thinking. You've been doing things. Not sudden things, not vigorous things, but you've had time to think. You might have moved around slightly. And you will happen to notice the clock, and practically no time has gone by, or in many cases, the clock will not have moved at all. So, you are experiencing in those moments what I call experiential time. Experiential time is not a portion of linear time. Experiential time is more the way you live as a soul, as an immortal spirit. It's the way you live when you're not physical. This is happening for one specific reason. The planet is changing. You are literally changing, as you might say, to use this word that is easy to understand. You are changing from one dimension to another. A dimension might be seen, say, on a piece of paper as a square, and then you make it three-dimensional and it looks like a cube, or in the case of a circle, which you then see as a sphere. You see? So that's second dimension and third dimension. But you are shifting into what amounts to the fourth dimension. In the fourth dimension, that sphere does not look any different, but you are just as much the sphere as the sphere is you. To put it in the simplest possible terms, you are literally completely enmeshed with everything else. This is how you know that something is amiss and might need to be corrected. You've noticed lately, some of you, that when things are amiss in the world, some people are suffering, others are not, that you have a tendency to get very political or action-oriented. What can I do about that? How can I change that now? It is good to try to do these things benevolently, be influential in some way, or take a direct action that is benevolent, meaning good and kind for all beings. In case there's a lack of clarity there what that word means for some of you. So that's what I recommend, of course. But it's important for you to understand that it's also symptomatic of experiencing, literally, experiential time, when you can do things, you can think, you can function, and yet linear time does not exist. I mentioned to you before when I talked about time a while back that I would say more about these things, and this is one of those moments. So I don't want you to be worried about this. When you get into what I'm calling, for the sake of simplicity here, the fourth dimension, life will be infinitely easier. You will still experience many of the things you do now. You will have friends, you will have loved ones, you will have food, you will sleep, all of that. Okay? But there will be considerably less discomfort. There will be, coming up, a period of adjustment where everyone becomes much more aware of how things are out of balance, and I've been talking about that too, and so have others. And when things are out of balance, it means that things need to be corrected, not violently, because that will always have effects far greater than anything you can plan for, no matter how good you're planning. So the change needs to be made benevolently and, if possible, in a way that is friendly and loving, that is appreciated and felt in a good way by all those who are affected. Not just that they say it is, but that you can tell it is, based on your own perceptions. People sometimes feel they have to be polite and say, "Oh yes, thank you," when in fact they are just waiting for this, whatever it is, to get over. You know, you've all been polite at times that way, and it does not lead to benevolence. It just leads to other things which don't work out so well. So it is a time for truthfulness. It's also a time to understand that many of the issues that are underlying, foundational issues for things that are upsetting in your life are not complicated, but they do unite you because they have everything to do with how you are alike as a people, as human beings. All right? So talk it up with each other. Begin to notice as you're doing, becoming friends on the internet and more so in physical life when you can. Talk it up. What is the root? What is the cause of your upset? Yes, you're upset about this. Yes, you're upset about that. Many times completely justified. You can understand why and how. But what is the actual cure? And it's not about punishing. It's not about harming. It's not about revenge, even though it may seem to be. As I say, violence or manipulation, control, all of these things are aspects of fear. And while fear is important in your life because it shows you something that needs to be corrected, it's not intended to be a motivator to violence. It just seems like it is. So, I know I'm covering a lot of ground here, but I said I'd talk more about time, and I'm doing it. So, It's important for you to understand that because the planet is going through this shift, you necessarily living on the planet, and you will have the human race on the planet during this whole trip from the third to the fourth dimension, and you're about halfway there already. Then you will have to change from the third to the fourth dimension physically. You don't have to do anything. It's happening. But when you have those moments, when you can tell you've been doing something, you've been thinking, you've had quite an experience, you're awake, you know it, and you look at the clock, and virtually no time has elapsed, then you'll know you have been in experiential time. You have been experiencing vertical time, and you had vertical wisdom available. So, I needed to let you know about this so that you would not be frightened. Know it's going a good place. Do what you can to help others when you have the opportunity, because many times you will notice that when you are in that experience of no time, I'm going to call it, that you're quite calm, quite focused, and totally in the present moment. In those experiences, you will usually feel completely fine, benevolent. Even if you have aches and pains normally, you won't notice them. You'll realize it, and then suddenly it will jar you back into your normal linear time. But as your experience goes on, you will notice more and more of these moments, and less of jarring linear time. Help others, because as experience goes on, you will need to have everybody in balance. And when you're in balance, you will understand real needs. Real needs are, you need to be loved, you need to be liked for just exactly who you are, even though that personality that you are might change from moment to moment or day to day. You need to be accepted and appreciated and honored, and you need to do that for others. Now, remember, even though the planet is going through this shift, and you are going through the shift with her, you don't have to practice to get better at being fourth dimensional. It's just happening. And the experience of time is one of the experiences that pointed out and let you know that this is something that's happening. You don't have to do anything about it. Creator, your soul, your angels, your guides, they're all taking care of it. But you have to pay attention so you will know that all is well when these moments occur, and you're being reminded on the deep soul level. Your soul is reminding you, and all benevolent beings are reminding you, that in those moments that feel like no time, that is who you really are. You are loved, you are honored, you are appreciated, and you feel that way towards others. I'll say more about these things when the time is right. Good life.